What's the most disrespectful thing a guest ever did in your home? Invited the whole gaggle of in-laws to check out our new house. We'd spent weeks reflooring, painting, recarpeting. I made lasagna, salad with homemade dressing, and a fabulous strawberry cake from scratch. Husband's 21-year-old niece insisted on taking her plate to the den to watch Game of Thrones because she simply had to see it as soon as it was released. Rude, but I got a tray for her and set it up, then went to eat with everyone else. When we finished, we all went into the den, and she dropped a giant glop of lasagna on the floor and apparently stepped in it at some point because it was ground into the brand new carpet. She'd also dropped salad onto the couch, and it left an oily stain. The worst thing, though, was that instead of telling us, trying to clean it up, or literally anything a normal human would do, she just placed a paper towel over it and left it there without saying a word. Her mom, my sister-in-law, just kind of laughed and made a joke about how now the house had been broken in. There have been no family gatherings at our house with the entire group of in-laws since then. Yeah, I mean, respect the space regardless if it's new or not. This isn't Joey Tribbiani's house. And really, the most egregious part of this story is wasting the lasagna. And then he stepped in it. How did that even happen, man? Next story. Peed everywhere in our bathroom, left it, and said nothing. Husband's friend brought his car to our house so my husband could fix something. I came home, said hello to both, and went in the house, put away groceries, and went to use the bathroom only to step in urine. It was like he dropped his pants and danced around the bathroom peeing. It was on the floor, the wall, top and bottom of the lid, top and bottom of the seat, all over the bowl, both inside and out. Like, what the F happened? Asked my husband to come inside, and I showed him the bathroom. Told him his friend either cleaned it up immediately or I was shattering his windshield. I wasn't serious. Husband dragged his friend in and asked what the F before shoving a mop and a cleaner into his hands. Watched the guy as he cleaned the bathroom before finishing his car and sending him on his way. I told my husband if he ever did work on that idiot's car again, he wasn't coming in the house. Husband agreed. We didn't get an explanation. The guy said he didn't know what happened and wouldn't give any further details. I missed. You what? I missed? What do you mean you missed? I missed. On a real note, though, that is horrendously disgusting. You don't treat someone's home like a gas station restroom. Next story. My youngest daughter died when she was 2. My now ex-husband's co-workers had collected money to help cover the funeral costs. The envelope was still laying on the mantel in our living room when my immediate family came over to visit. Brothers, sisters, SILs, nephews, and my mom. One of them stole $1,400. I have my suspicions which one it was, but there was never going to be a way to prove that it happened, much less who did it. I didn't have the mental bandwidth to confront anyone. I was barely functional. A crappy thing to do to anyone at any time, but under those circumstances? I considered myself very close to my family, but one of those mother effers is the vilest person I know, and I don't even know which one. The most likely culprit died a few months later, and the drug abuse was involved. Next story. I lived with my sister and now BIL when they were dating and for a year after they got married. I threw a party while they were on their honeymoon, and these friends of mine came and brought this acquaintance of mine, this dude who was known for getting drunk, starting fights, and generally effing crap up. Just an absolute unit of a dude and not the kind of guy you would want to upset. We'll call him Pete. At some point in the party, someone was sitting on an ottoman, which my sister and BIL had recently bought, along with a matching easy chair, as sort of a "we're adults now, we're buying nice stuff" purchase. The ottoman wasn't made for supporting a lot of weight, I guess because one of the legs buckled and bent underneath it and the whole thing collapsed. Well, Pete just happened to be sitting right there, and in his drunk mind thinks, "Ha ha ha, me make all the legs like bad leg," and starts pounding on the good legs and breaking them off. Once he breaks the first one off, I just snapped, "What the F are you doing, man?" And I grabbed the ottoman from him. His demeanor immediately changed. His face got all red and this vein in his forehead appeared and started pulsing. I knew I was about 5 minutes from 1, getting my butt beat by this gorilla, and 2, him trashing the apartment. Fortunately, one of my friends that had brought him to the party ran over and simultaneously talked him down and walked him out. Incredible crisis management skills, I should say. I remember Pete being walked out of the house mumbling, He yelled at me. He yelled at me! Anyway, about 6 months later, Pete went to prison for about 6 years for beating someone's skull in with a crowbar. Next story. This was when I was a kid, so it was still my home. My parents built their current house in September 2000, had a big housewarming party maybe a month or so later before Halloween. I remember that. Since it was a much larger house than our previous one, we had a few empty rooms, some random boxes that were unpacked. Some friend's significant other decided to go upstairs into one of the empty rooms and smoke some drugs. I was 12. I knew the smell from the older kids in my previous neighborhood, but only in passing. So when I went to go hang out in my room and the whole second floor smelled like skunk crap weed, I was so confused. My little brother, who was 6, started thinking a skunk got in and ran to tell my dad. I can still hear the screaming match my parents had with this guy as they were literally throwing him out of the house. My mom's friend right behind, all embarrassed. I'd never seen my dad so mad before, and he just kept saying that there were kids all over the house and how irresponsible that guy was being. As a dad now, I totally get it, and would have done the same as my dad. Next story. This was a long time ago. Like the preschoolers in this story are all adults now. But once, I invited my downstairs neighbor over for dinner. The wife spent the whole time picking bits she didn't like the look of out of the food I had cooked with a disgusted look on her face. After dinner, we were chilling in the living room while the kids played in my daughter's room. They had twins the same age, all 4 at the time. When I went to check on them, the neighbor kids had pulled everything out of the dresser drawers, climbed the shelves in the closet, and knocked a bunch of stuff down and were drawing on the walls with markers they'd knocked from the high shelves. This was in army housing, so I was definitely going to get charged for that. But you can't get mad at little kids for doing what they were taught was okay. The real problem here was that the parents didn't even help clean up. They just laughed about it and went home. Next story. My sister-in-law and her boyfriend took advantage of my wife's hospitality. They originally asked to stay for 2 weeks, which turned into 4 months. There wasn't just one issue, it was a long list of smaller things that kept adding up. For example, they would criticize me for how much I consume while I was the one doing their dirty dishes. They wrote on a single sheet of paper directly on my kitchen table, leaving visible indentations of math equations. They took dishes and silverware and left them in their car. They also made elaborate meals but left the kitchen a mess afterward. The final straw was when the boyfriend spilled a heavy stout beer on my couch and didn't clean it up or even say anything. Next story. Not my home, but my parents. Thanksgiving night. Idiot little brother brought his girlfriend at the time. They stayed the night, but my parents, being strictly religious, had them sleep in separate bedrooms. Guess who snuck off to his girlfriend's bedroom in the middle of the night and got caught in the morning? I'm not a religious person, and thought separating them was a bit much. They practically lived together at the time. But my thoughts are, it's mom and dad's house, just follow the dang rule for one night. My brother was yelling at my dad that morning because my dad refused to give him gas money. He was begging for gas money after breaking the one rule they set. I mean, you're an idiot. That was the last time my brother saw our father. My brother is an F-up and got locked up shortly after. Our dad passed away before he got out. Next story. I was 8 years old and this neighborhood kid would just show up and claim to be my older brother's friend. We used to light fireworks in our backyard and had a decent stash. One day my brother was at football practice and the kid asked if we could light fireworks. I said, no, my parents aren't home and my brother would kill me if we did. He got mad, said he was going to use the bathroom. He then said in a panic, I gotta go home. My home needs me. The next day, we saw he stole all the fireworks and a can of Planters cheese balls. I mean, F that kid. Next story. My aunt brought my cousin's pregnant girlfriend into my and my sister's bedroom, separated by a door, and proceeded to go into our closets and allow the pregnant girlfriend to try every fancy item of clothing in there. It was Indian wear. She needed something to wear to a family wedding. They took out, opened, and tried on every single garment they could find, stretched them out, and then flung it on the floor after realizing none would fit her. Then just walked out. We were in shock and didn't even know how to respond. Same aunt's daughter came over with her husband and baby and set up shop in my sister's room. I am really iffy about people on my bed, and so is my sister, so I know she about died inside when she went into our closets in her room and found 1. Cousin's husband lying bareback across her bed sleeping at noon, completely covered in car grease and sweat. 2. Cousin changing her baby on her bed with nothing put down, baby's bare butt on her duvet, poop everywhere. No attempt was made to clean it up. That same cousin also took my duvet off my bed to put it on the ground outside so she could put the same child to sleep on while she was outside. Next story. Ex-husband dropped off our son during co-parenting years, but proceeded to follow son into the living room, then yelled at him for being disrespectful to ex-girlfriend in the car. What was the exchange? In the driveway, the girlfriend told my son, "You don't deserve a father." So my son called her a female dog and slammed the door on his way out of the car. I intervened and told my ex to stop shouting and calmly tell me what happened. And after hearing the facts, I told him his girlfriend was absolutely a female dog and he needed to get out of my house immediately. He then lunged at me for the first time ever. I stood my ground and made a fist ready to punch him in the face. He stopped in shock and ran out of the front door with me yelling, "Don't ever come into my house again." Then I hugged my son and offered to eat ice cream with him and talk about it. That was 20 years ago. Nothing has topped it. Wait, why was the dad mad? It sounds like the son stood up to the girlfriend for him. I mean, maybe just teaching respect and manners, but by being disrespectful and not having manners towards your own son? And then getting into a fight with your ex-wife? Woof, woof. Next story. My sister and her stupid boyfriend tried to re-educate my children about all the positives and great things that the Trump and the Republicans are doing and have done for this country. How J6 was a false flag nonsense operation by Democrats and the FBI. I literally kicked him out and said I don't allow people to lie to my children inside of my home. My sister's boyfriend then said that I couldn't make him leave my house and he had every right to be wherever he wants to be. And I said, no, I own this house. It's my house. He still refused to leave. My sister tried to get him to leave and he still would not leave. Finally, I went and told him that I will go get my gun and I will be shooting him in the face if he does not leave my home and never come back. It wasn't until I started walking to my bedroom to get my gun that he finally left, but not before peeling out of my driveway and leaving my sister and her children abandoned in another city 40 miles from her home. Eventually, he came back and they left. I have crappy family. That's why I don't talk to them anymore. Next story. Selling my house, the new buyer asked if they could come over to take some measurements. I said fine, as long as they didn't mind stepping around some boxes that hadn't been moved out yet. The buyer turns up with what must have been their entire family, including a young child, who, to put it kindly, seemed to have some discipline issues. Whatever, it's a kid, that's why they have parents to supervise them, right? I leave the room for a moment and come back to see one of the adults handing some stuffed toys to the kid to play with. Stuffed toys that had been packed away and sealed in one of the moving boxes. They just straight up went through my things and gave them to the kid to distract them while they all gossiped about whatever. Utterly bratty family in general. I just generally could not believe it. Yo, treating a home like it's an episode of Storage Wars? That's crazy. Next story. In my early 20s, girlfriend and I had a small party in our apartment. A friend of one of her friends was drunk and blatantly hitting on me in front of my girlfriend, going so far at some point as to decide to walk around in her panties before making a fool of herself, causing a scene and passing out. Months later, I turned on the broiler on our stove, a drawer that sat under the larger oven door. After a little bit, I open it to put some food in and see a bottle of Bacardi with flames shooting out of the twist-off cap. At that instant, it exploded, sending glass all over the kitchen. It was as if I lit an M80 in the kitchen. Phone starts ringing and the landlord who lived downstairs is screaming, "What the heck was that?" It took a while until it dawned on me that the drunk girl from the party had stolen a bottle from us and hidden it, apparently in an effort to retrieve it at some point later during the party. Our landlord was really cool, but it was an incredibly awkward moment trying to explain it to him. Next story. Overstay their welcome. Big time. The guy was supposed to drop his kid for a birthday party at my place and pick her up 3 hours later. Instead, he came with all his children, not invited. His wife, His in-laws? I even caught him calling a cousin to join him in our house. When all our guests left at the time we had agreed on, happy but exhausted kids and all, well, there they still were, sprawled out on our sofas. We had to yawn in their faces and gently ask our kids to go put on their pajamas after such a long day. Then I asked their whole lot, while breastfeeding my baby, for dramatic purposes I do confess, if they would be kind enough to fill my dishwasher while I'd put everyone to bed while singing lullabies. Only then did they get the hint that it was more than time to leave. Golly! Never again. Next story. About 20 years ago, while my husband was working out of town, my dad decided to drive down and stop for a visit. After a few minutes of making small talk, his tone changed and he started unloading his anger onto me. He took the opportunity, no witnesses, to tell me how bad he thought me, were as parents. At the time we had one son and he was newly diagnosed with OCD and anxiety. We had sought help from a psychiatrist and getting counseling. We were doing everything we could to help our child. Of course, I was startled when my dad started cussing me out, calling me every name in the book in my house. He then stood up, started towards me, pointing his finger and coming at me. I had instant flashbacks to being a kid when he would corner me, pointing that right index finger and pounding it into my chest while screaming and cussing over whatever had flicked his bick that day. I had a younger brother who was subjected to this abuse as well. Seeing him stand up and start walking towards me, seething and pointing within milliseconds, I was emotionally transported back to my childhood. Then, as I started backing up, and the farther I backed up, it finally happened. My living room started coming into focus and reality hit me. My brain got in gear and I thought, wait a minute, this is my house. I started walking towards him, pointing to the door and yelled at the top of my lungs, "Get out of my house!" I started the index finger air pointing motions at him and the door, then proceeded to march him straight out of my house while telling him, "Who do you think you are? Get out!" I remember telling him that this was my house, and he had no right to tell me what kind of parents he thinks I am, and told him just how hypocritical he was because we all knew he was such a great dad. Huge eye roll. I told him that we had gotten our son help because that's what parents are supposed to do. They try to help their kids, not try to destroy them like he did with me and my brother. And I told him that he had no rights, nor will he ever have any, over me or my son. I know I said a lot more, but it was all so surreal and in the heat of the moment. I think my wounded inner child and the mama bear in me just let it all out, and without any regrets either. He left and drove back to his house almost 2 hours away. He never told anyone what he did or said, but I didn't hold back. And of course told my husband and other family members. When I told my stepmom, she told me she was proud of me for standing up to him. He never apologized, nor will he ever apologize for anything he's ever done or said to me or anyone. My dad was, and still is, angry because he wanted to attempt to see how much control he could wield over me and my son. He didn't like anyone in my family trying to get help for anxiety or depression, especially my mom. He is still angry he lost control of my mom, my brother, me, and anyone else he ever abused. That's how he's always been too. And after that happened, I briefly felt empowered, but because I came from a toxic and abusive family, guilt and fear came rushing back. There have been other issues with him since that time, but not at my house. Never again at my house. He currently continues to be angry, miserable, 83 years old that has pushed away many family members, especially me and my son. We are estranged from him and other family members because we will not tolerate any type of abuse from him or anyone. That was the most disrespectful thing that ever happened in my home. Throughout my life, I have tried to be an encouragement to others because of the emotional, physical, and verbal abuse I experienced growing up. Please do not let anyone ever try to make you feel bad for doing what is right, for speaking up and owning your truth, and never let anyone try to shame you or ridicule you for trying to help anyone, including yourself, for seeking mental health support. You are important, you matter, and you deserve goodness, love, safety, and support. Next story. A relative came over for a group dinner, and my husband and I made it clear no one would be staying overnight. The relative added a bunch of extra seasoning to their plate of spaghetti, then snuck and threw the entire plate away because it was too salty. Yeah, no crap. We only saw it later, hidden in the trash, when we went to throw other stuff away. Fast forward an hour or so, my husband and I returned to the kitchen and to find said family member eating leftover mashed potatoes from the fridge. that I was saving for my husband and were not part of that evening's dinner with their bare hands. They'd even added a few spoons of spaghetti sauce because guess it wasn't too salty when it left the frick alone, and proceeded to exclaim that they were the best mashed potatoes they'd ever eaten. They also intentionally drank too much to be able to drive home, thinking they would be allowed to stay, even though we said no overnight guests before dinner even started. At the end of the day, my husband ended up driving the relative an hour across town to their house in their car and calling an Uber to bring him back home. It's been a few years, and that still takes the cake. Next story. When I was a kid, my mom let one of her friends and her son live with us for a couple of months. He was an effing nightmare, and his mom insisted he was an angel. He went into my room at one point and broke all of my favorite toys, including this robotic dinosaur that was my prized possession, because he was jealous that I had them while he didn't have any at the moment. We were poor as F, so it's not like I had a ton of expensive toys, but he decided that I shouldn't have any. His mom insisted that I'd broken them and was framing her little angel because I didn't want them there. He also would take things out of the fridge and just throw them away, burying them under other trash, so we couldn't have them. My mom was buying their food, but it wasn't enough, I guess. My mom finally kicked them out after the kid harassed a girl at church and tried to blame me for it when she reported it. He claimed that I dared him to do it, then threatened to beat him up if he didn't do it. Luckily, my mom decided to finally grow a spine at that point and finally stood up for me, but only because literally nobody believed the story. Next story. Oh boy, have I got a story. So my brother-in-law, who, not the highest caliber human being, came to visit. We went to a sporting event. He got completely hammered, started talking to two strange women, invited them back to our tailgate. While we were cleaning up the tailgate, he invited them back to our house. He has a live-in girlfriend, and they live at his mother's house together. I immediately shut that down on the way home. He proceeded to try and pick a fight with me about the song on the radio, the color of the car next to us, anything that he could pick a fight. When we got back to the house, he proceeded to start another fight over the fact that I did not want him visiting anymore, and he got completely hammered. And then he peed the bed, so we had to throw the mattress out. Holy crap, dude. I like to imagine that he was so pathetic that he was willing to pee his pants just to wet the bed, just to get retaliation, which is even more petty and ridiculous. But also, the guy sounds like a bit of a tool. Next story. My brother doesn't respect other people's property. Two notable incidents. He was pretending to roundhouse kick my new TV. He's solidly connected. The other had installed a new decorative garden arch. It was a pretty cheap thing overall, thin metal. He walked up and said, "Bet this could hold my weight," and grabbed the top bars while still standing under it. My other brother, who'd assembled it for me, said, "No, it can't, don't do that." So of course, destructive brother looked us dead in the face and lifted both feet off the ground. Whole thing immediately crumpled inwards. He was around 23 years old for both of these. Another time I was having a New Year's Eve party and someone asked if I wanted to save an empty bottle. One of the guests, who'd never been to my place before and was the +1 of a friend, asked what I'd want it for, and I said I'd make lamps out of them. He immediately said, "Oh yeah, you do like that white trash chic, I can tell." He and his girlfriend proceeded to sloppy make out on the couch for 3 hours. Another most recent one, I was hosting a small barbecue at my parents' while they were out of town. Another random +1 sat on top of their elegant, not sturdy, antique table. The person was small, so the weight might not have been an issue, but they also had jeans covered in brads and immediately scratched the top. That same person spent the rest of the barbecue speaking in random snippets of not English and said that it was because they come from the background of literature and refinement, and they can't restrain themselves to just the English language. I say not English because it was like 5 different language snippets. Also, no one asked. They just randomly made that comment to a group at large. I think it's very silly to be like, man, I'm so sophisticated and elegant and cultured that I can't refrain from other dialects and languages at this moment. Even though nobody can understand the one, and you speak the language that everyone could be understanding. I'm so sorry, I gotta let this out on the behalf of the knights to say, bangs, my. Next story. I had a large party, which was to be contained to the backyard and basement. Kids were staying at grandma's, so we partied well into the night. At some point, I decided to go upstairs to just do a quick walkthrough to make sure everything was right. I hear noise coming from my son's room at the opposite end of the house. He is not home, and everyone knows the upstairs is off limits. I open the door, and here is my friend, bare butt nailing some lady on the floor. I dropped several words and shooed them out like a couple of cats right into the night. I am no prude, and I did inform certain people that if they needed to crash out, they can go to my travel trailer, but in my son's room? F that. Never told anyone, and he apologized numerous times, but that is my story. I don't even think it's necessary to preface with, I am no prude, if you find people getting intimate and dirty in your son's bedroom. I don't care what level of debauchery you're into, that's just unacceptable. Next story. My dad hired a woman to do paperwork for his landscaping company. He found out that she was couch surfing and that she couldn't have her baby back until she had a stable housing and income. My dad not only gave her a job, not only invited her to stay in our 3-bedroom ranch with the 5 of us, but he helped her fight to get guardianship of her 1.5-year-old. And when she did, her son was welcomed in as well. Then one day the bank called. She had been writing herself checks out of his business account. Next story. We let them stay at our place and use my car for a week while we went on vacation. They had just moved for a job and their vehicle had crapped the bed. I warned them the car was low on gas before we left for a week-long trip and it would need to be filled soon when we got back. They had purchased a movie to watch on our TV but never told us. We found out when the bill came. The car had no fuel, and I wasn't given a warning, so I jumped in to drive to work and was late because I had to get gas. We had no toilet paper left in the house. They said they hadn't noticed because they were using the stuff at work. Next story. Kicked my dog because it didn't move out of the way from where it was sleeping in my floor. They were then propelled out of my front door by the back of their neck and told to never come back. Doggy was fine, but I took him to the vet anyway just to be safe. Dude tried to come back the next day. I opened the door with a weapon and told him if he touched my door again, he'd find out how much pain it could inflict. He took the hint, and I've not seen him in 15 years. It was not an accident, by the way. He could have easily stepped over this puppy. Next story. I made a huge holiday dinner for 15 plus people, everything made from scratch. One of the guests, not family, brought her own Tupperware, the biggest size possible, and took every bit of food that was left without asking. I'm talking ham, turkey, pierogies, stuffing, cabbage, rolls, veggies, homemade bread, mashed potatoes, gravy, etc. Enough to feed at least 5 or 6 people. I was so distracted hosting, I didn't realize until she left, and I went into the kitchen to realize everything was gone. One of my friends told me that they had watched her do it, but they thought she had my permission. I think about it every holiday meal now, and no, she's never been invited back. I have never heard or even thought about somebody like trick-or-treating at Thanksgiving. Just bringing a giant bag of Tupperware. All these leftovers are my baby. I mean, one, yes, of course, in this situation, super disrespectful. But most holidays, at least in my life, people have tons of leftovers they're trying to pawn onto everybody. And this could be kind of genius. I want a big potluck catch-all. Next story. Had a buddy who had to leave his apartment when he split from his girlfriend. He was staying with his sister on her couch. I was going out of the country for 2 weeks with my family and offered him our place during that time so he can sleep in a bed. We cleaned that house before leaving and came back to a mess. All the beds, including my kids' beds, were all slept in and left a mess. Burn marks on the chairs, carved PS4 controllers, the kitchen was filthy, the bathroom was disgusting, there were crap stains on the bowl, and more. Apart from the obvious not cleaning, he flat out denied that he did it. He said that when he came over, it was already like that. He said he couldn't believe we lived like that. I had originally wanted him to stay while my family was still on vacation, but kicked him out that same night. Our relationship continued to sour over the years until it was done. Part of me misses the friendship, but overall I think it's much better this way. Too long didn't read, but he left my place a mess and denied doing, despite being the only one there. Next story. One time when my parents were away, my older brother and I had friends over to party, as one does when one is in the last year of high school. My friends at the time were a bunch of stoners, so we were smoking plenty of joints outside. My brother's friends were a bit older, being in university, so my brother was full of lectures to me not let my worthless stoner friends trashed the house. The irony was that my friend, wasted though they may be, cleaned up after themselves impeccably, and the areas we hung out in were spotless the next day. Not so much with my brother's friends. There was popcorn ground into the carpet, cans lying around, the usual mild debris. The unusual part was that there was one very strange individual who showed up with my brother's crowd. Turned out afterwards, no one really knew him all that well. He just kinda tagged along. Nor did he talk with anyone. He just sort of found rooms no one was in and hung out by himself in them. All this became relevant after everyone left and we started cleaning up. What this weirdo was doing was going through our stuff and sticking stickers on it. Nothing special, just the usual sort of stickers kids collect with cartoon characters, rainbows, unicorns, that sort of thing. Only he was sticking them in odd places, hard to find, backs of pictures hanging on the wall, inside pages of books, underneath drawers. We tried to get rid of them, but it was impossible. We were still finding those stupid stickers literally years later. I guess he thought it was a funny prank. It was about as much fun as a punch to the nuts, which I sincerely hope he got one day. Next story. My sister-in-law is a cleaning freak. When she comes to visit, the first thing she does is go into the bathroom and thoroughly cleans it, even if I have just finished cleaning it. She recently visited for 2 weeks, and after she left, I had to completely restore my order to my spice cabinet, my linen closet, my pantry, most of the kitchen drawers. She vacuumed every day, usually at 4 a.m., because she lives in a time zone that is 3 hours ahead of us. Fortunately, the master bedroom is on the opposite end of the house, so it didn't wake me. But during a different visit, she literally backed out of the kitchen door, cleaning the floor as she left to return home. I used to take it as a personal insult, but have come to realize that is her problem, not mine. She needs to find some new hobbies, but at 71, I don't think she'll ever change. Next story. Mother-in-law. She was in the area and had an emergency where she crapped her pants. She does have some sensitive stomach issues. Completely understandable. We're all human. She wanted to come in and change her clothes and clean herself up as much as possible, right? Sure, no problem. She comes out of the bathroom with clean pants on, had some in her car, but nothing in her hands. She left soon after. I went into the bathroom soon after and found out what happened. She took off her crappy pants, didn't clean them up, but simply fully soaked them in the sink so there was an even layer of crap juice all over every inch of her pants, and hung them up sopping wet on my towel rack, crap juice running all down my wall and making a lake on the floor. Not only that, but my toilet itself, and the lid, and the tank, and the knob had crap smears all over it. Zero concern over cleaning up after herself, and away with her pants, she is now banned from my house. I had to clean and sanitize the entire bathroom because there was actual crap everywhere. Would have left it for husband, but I would need to use the bathroom long before he came home. Ew, oh, the visual. The sensations, the feelings, the thoughts. Oh, dude, poop, poop's gross. But wet poop? Oh, guys said poop juice. Next story. When I was in 3rd grade, a cousin, 3 years older, visiting for the weekend found my Game Boy Color while I was out and proceeded to create, then save under a new file in Pokemon Red, in the process deleting my first ever Pokemon file. I'd caught 96 Pokemon and was about to have my first fight with the Elite Four. I cried upon finding out as I'd bonded a lot with my Venusaur. It remained the worst thing he'd done to me for like 25 years until something recently usurped it, though the new thing wasn't at home and thus isn't relevant to the prompt. Is it Venusaur? Is it Venusaur? Guys, I'm sorry, I'm not a Pokemon guy. Please don't hurt me. I know Ivysaur. Next story. He was staying in my roommate's room while the third roomie was out of town. He was asked only one thing, which is to not have intimate relations in the roommate's bed. So, what did he do? Naturally, he brought a girl back to my apartment. They had intimate relations in the bed. Then in my roommate's shared shower, and they left evidence. Then in my private bathroom, also left evidence. Also, while hitting dab after dab in the room and leaving the desk sticky with residue somehow. He was not invited back. It was kind of unbelievable, honestly. The girl lived in the neighborhood. He could have just gone to her, but he had a key and unrestricted in and out of access to the unit. Next story. I wasn't there, which, to be honest, is probably for the best, but it was while I was still living with my folks, so it counts. My dad's friend saw my gay older brother's wedding photo in my parents' house and made a homophobic comment. My dad, my brother's stepdad, spinelessly tried to let it go. Our mother did not. That friend is no longer welcome to set foot in our home. Knowing my mother, he's lucky a butt-chewing and banishment is all he got. Thankfully, my dad has since wised up on that friend and cut him out when he went full MAGA. Next story. My cousin showed up to live with me uninvited after driving 9 hours. Naively, we let him in. In negative 20-degree weather, he constantly opened my front door to go smoke outside. When I complained, he opened the window to the spare room he was staying in and blew the smoke out the window. He left my dog in her cage all day, drank the last of my chocolate milk, left food wrappers all over his room along with dirty dishes. While cleaning the first time, I pulled a loaded cocked pistol from behind his pillow. I made him unload and store it. The second time I cleaned, I pulled one of my hand towels from behind the bed. It was crusty. He told me don't touch that. I self-pleasured into it. He became possessive of my MacBook, claiming to be looking for jobs on it. After 3 weeks, I told him to leave. He packed his things and attempted to take with him the bedding and pillows from the spare room, some of my husband's clothes and several pairs of shoes, and my MacBook. My husband stopped him. He then asked my husband for $50. I then went through his internet history and found tons of insane adult content. Anime, his job searches, him ordering intimate relation workers from Craigslist on 2 occasions, and his search for a wife on ChristianMingle.com. He did the same thing to a cousin on his dad's side, but they were smart enough to not let him in. He then wanted to court his other cousin's 12-year-old daughter, so the second cousin, he sent me his manifesto, as I like to call it. Long diatribe, justifying him wanting to date a child, mixed with copy and pasted Bible verses, and something about bringing his firearm into church. They chased him away from the girl, luckily. None of us have to worry about him anymore, though. He was shot by his own brother in self-defense while attacking the 80-plus-year-old father while breaking into their house. Guys, I'm sorry when my narration style kind of goes off the rails and you can hear me reacting to it as it happens, but some of these are just so ridiculously awful and freaky and weird. I can't help it. I will say, the thing that is very silly to me was all of this happened. This is all insane and crazy. And one of the first things he mentions of the most egregious offenses is he drank the last of my chocolate milk, which, you know what, I get as a big chocolate milk drinker myself. That's erroneous, okay? That is not to be toyed with. Next story. Let a friend stay with us because she lost her home and needed a place to get back on her feet. Unfortunately, it did not work out. Within less than a month or two, my youngest daughter was having a really hard time with it. I told my friend I needed her to find other accommodations because my children have to come first. I asked her to please find a place within a week or two. I wasn't just kicking her out on the street. She had an adult daughter she could move in with. It was just a distance away from where she wanted to be, and she didn't want to deal with her grandkids. It wasn't supposed to be long-term anyway. I did it as nicely as possible, didn't place any blame, just said my kid was having trouble adjusting to the different arrangement and I needed to make sure she was okay. She got upset, and one day when I was at work, she intentionally let my youngest daughter's indoor cat outside, and the cat ended up getting hit by a car and killed. It absolutely devastated my daughter, who was 11. I can still hear her screams and sobs when we told her he had passed. When I found out what she did, I told her she had 24 hours to get the F out, and she packed the rest of her crap up that night and left. I haven't spoken to her since, and that was 13-ish years ago. Also haven't let anyone live with me after that either, even though my kids are grown. Next story. 10 or less upvote stories. I was watching my widowed brother's 4 kids. I had 2 of my own. My mother, who was 80, was also living with me at the time. I had all the kids go to their beds for rest time and went and laid down. I had a migraine. A woman I thought was my friend called, and I said, I can't talk, I'm having a migraine, and I only have a short window to rest. She brought her 3 kids over, one of which is special needs, and while I was sleeping, convinced my mom to watch her kids while her kids woke up and disrupted reading time for the big kids. I woke up early from the noise, and my ex-friend was sleeping beside me, leaving my 80-year-old mother to watch 9 kids. Yes, my mother hated her after this. Next story. We invited some acquaintances who were dating, a girl and a guy. They got to our house and told us it used to be a party house in high school. People used Ouija boards and someone unalived themselves there. That wasn't the weird part. The weird part was after they were there for a few hours. The girl had to go to the bathroom. She spent like 10 minutes in there and then called her boyfriend in the bathroom with her. They spent about 10 more minutes in the bathroom before coming out. I don't know what all they were doing in there, but they definitely scooped out large amounts of my mother-in-law's creams and stuff. As if spending time in the bathroom with your boyfriend isn't weird enough, you're gonna go through other people's stuff as well? Thankfully, this is the most disrespectful thing a guest has done in our house. Next story. Had relations with another guest on my daughter's bed and bragged about it. Let a handicapped cat out and didn't bother to mention it until hours later when my husband and I were frantically looking for it in the house. Streamed movies knowing we only had a certain amount of usage a month. It was back in the early 2000s, after we had asked them not to. Snuck and smoked in the house after we'd gone to sleep thinking we wouldn't notice after we asked them not to. Kept turning the heat up to 74 degrees with no regards to the cost or discomfort of others. When asked not to, they argued that they were cold. I offered plenty of blankets, but that wasn't a suitable fix. I have never been so glad to see people leave my home, and they were never welcomed back. I ended the friendship with them before they left. Next story. I have 2. We hosted my mom for Christmas, and she got us home decor for a gift. So she walked around our house and took down our decor to put what she got us up. When I stood up to her, she had a crash out and started saying rude things to me and my now husband. She then refused to leave and tried to get my husband to break up with me. Crap was really wild. Second, we had our friends over for a sleepover and they brought their toddler, aka the terror. We have a small pool in our neighborhood, and it has a small lake. We all went swimming in both, and when we got back home from the beach, I set up the bathroom so they can shower and bathe their toddler. They didn't feel like it, so they sat their wet, sandy bodies on our suede couch. The toddler even danced on our pillows, and I eventually found him walking on our countertops. They eventually all got cleaned up, and I found their toddler playing in our toilet. Eventually I caught him sticking his finger up my dog's butt. He even tried to push her down the stairs. Okay, I did have to constantly tell our guests, including the toddler, no, which was annoying. After they left, we found a few dirty diapers spread throughout the house. They didn't mention they put them there. Never again. Next story. I had a couple of old high school buddies over one night, and we were late 30s at the time. I hadn't seen them for 15 years or more. One of them got a little too intoxicated. A couple of substances led to this, so we had him call his wife to come get him. She came over and hung out with us for about 10 minutes, just getting a read on his condition, then they left. He had her drive to the back alley of my house and had me come outside. He then pushed me against the door and put a knife to my throat and said he knew what was going on when his wife was in there, that she and I were flirting. We absolutely weren't, and I had just met her that night, and he said he was gonna kill me. I just said, "That's cool. Go ahead. I've lived a good life. It's fine with me." He started laughing and said, "You're effed up, dude," and then left. Came home the next day to a note from him apologizing with his phone number and said we should hang out again sometime. That was kind of disrespectful. Next story. I was 13 or 14. My dad coached the baseball team. Had the entire team over to practice on our pitching machine, take a swim in the pool, etc. Just fun team bonding day, you know? A couple of my close friends stayed the night. Also, I didn't know well. Thought it was kind of weird at the time, but didn't think much of it and tried to be nice. Anyway, 2 or 3 a.m. we wake up to the ambulance and such. He had found a bottle of Jack Daniels off my parents, got hammered, and was joyriding my dirt bike in the dead of night. 13 years old. He ended up wrecking it and hurt his leg. I only found out later that he stayed the night because his parents just never showed up or answered my parents' calls. The police were familiar with him, and they were never hassled about being responsible for it or anything. My dad actually continued to coach him for years, and he turned out all right, all things considering. I mostly just remember being effing floored. I was an innocent child. The idea of going to another person's house, stealing their liquor, and taking off on their dirt bike at midnight, just a completely alien concept. Next story. When my husband and I had just gotten married and moved into our fixer-upper first house, one of my sisters kept mocking the DIY my husband had put so much effort and caring into. Also, his taste in general. "Did you want your gate to look like a spaceship?" It came to a point. "That molding is very thin." I suppose it was easier to install than a more substantial trim. No, it was just third the price, which was the best choice at the time. I'm assuming that painting is Bob's taste. Yes, I corrected her, of course, but she kept apologizing with a little laugh. Didn't stay long. We've been very low contact for a long time since. Next story. My family moved to Istanbul, and we threw a Halloween party for the expat kids at our home. The kids went up to our kids' rooms and destroyed all of our son's Lego Star Wars sets that we built together. And I mean destroyed. Pieces everywhere. By the time I understood where the guests had gone and what had happened, it was too late. My son was so upset. Hours of work and even some minifigures were never recovered. Sadly, we were trying to do something nice for the expat community, and it just didn't work out nicely for us in the end. Next story. I had a yard cat. She would not live in the house. She would get neurotic and lick all of her fur off and pee all over the place. We hooked her up outside with a heated rabbit hutch, heated water bowl in the winter, and if she chose to come inside on the colder nights, we always allowed her to. She was very welcome inside, but it was rare that she came in, and even then she would sit at the back door most of the time, maybe hang out with the other animals. Well, I had some guests over, and she was cold and looked like she had been scrapping with some other cats around, so she came in. She was a mess. She stunk, and she was clearly exhausted. I got her hooked up with some water and food, and she chilled by the back door. My guest opened the door and put her out. She said, "I can smell her from the living room," and just tossed her out of my back door like trash. Then she was super confused about why I threw her crap out my front door and locked her out. Yes, justice for the animals. So many egregious fouls in these people's homes, but I mean, it's not even just disrespectful to hit someone's animal. You're just hitting an animal. You're just straight up abusing a pet. Foul play. Next story. My partner and I had moved to California and were struggling to get by, but once we found an apartment, we invited our couple friends from back home to come stay with us for a visit. We were very explicit that we were still getting our footing financially, and that we mostly just wanted to spend time together and play board games. They arrived with a very different notion that we were California hotshots, and that they had spent the money flying to visit us. We should be taking them on a whirlwind tour at our expense, because, being Californians now, we could surely afford it easily. One night of their visit, I was driving home from my job as an unsuccessful traveling salesman when my old car I had driven across the country finally bit the dust, and my partner and our guests had to drive out to rescue me from the highway. On the side of the highway, my partner and I are trying to rein in the stress panic in front of our guests, when the lady guest starts having a nervous episode of her own because her vacation is not measuring up to her hopes, culminating in a phrase I will always remember, sobbing, "I don't know, I want a peach." My partner took her to get a peach, and her partner brought me a volcano bowl. All's well that ends well, but for a moment I could have slapped the need for peaches right out of her. Next story. My son's 13-year-old friend selfishly crammed most of the pizza down his gullet that I made for my son and another friend. Like he smashed it down while the other two played a game waiting for it to cool down. Shortly after, he complained of feeling sick and vomited in my bathroom sink and all over the counter, into the sink, not the toilet. Then he just left. My son called me downstairs. He was disgusted and very annoyed. My sink was clogged with vomit. There was vomit on the floor, on my electric toothbrush, the towel, the floor. I called him on my son's phone and tore a strip off him. The cleanup process was, not fun. It was not. Thin vomit. Ugh. Next story. My mate and his girlfriend borrowed my beach house for the weekend in Australia. They stopped at a winery on the way down. They were not in my house 15 minutes before they decided to redecorate. All the furniture was in the wrong places, apparently, so they moved it all, about 4 rooms worth, while obliterating my wine collection. Then they took photos and proudly sent them to me. Expecting thanks, I guess? Newsflash, I was not pleased. But I'm more of a get-even person than a get-mad person. I was at home in my pajamas, but I got dressed and went to their business, unsurprisingly, a local bar. I bought everyone a round of beers, then convinced them to help me. With so many willing hands to help, we soon reorganized the bar. We made huge communal tables and piled things from the kitchen and the office onto them. We pilfered the dry goods pantry and took pics with everyone holding different cans of food. Sent him one pic, which was enough for him to tune into the security cameras to enjoy the full experience. Not as funny as what they did to my place, apparently. Note, I'm still friends with a couple of Danish tourists that I met and who helped out that night. Fun guys. Strong, too. Next story. My 20-something son had moved out of the house, and his girlfriend had difficulties at home. So, she asked if she and her little daughter could stay with us for a while. We liked her, and were more than happy to have her stay temporarily until she got on her feet. No rent, sweetie, don't worry about that. Just feed and clean up after yourself. That's all we asked. As is so often the case, a few weeks turned into a few months. Bad on me for putting up with it, but I had bonded with her little girl and felt we could provide her with some stability. At some point, she and my son had broken up, but I wasn't supposed to know. Duh. It was glaringly obvious, and I should have kicked her out, but again, I felt a responsibility to that little girl. Husband and I went out of town for a weekend and came home to an absolute disaster. Ex-girlfriend had thrown a huge party while we were gone. Garbage everywhere, broken glassware, stains on the carpet, liquor cabinet completely emptied, and she had the audacity to call my son to help her clean up the mess. She was gone soon after. Next story. My ex-husband invited his new barber to our home for dinner. They'd apparently hit it off. This guy brings his girlfriend and their newborn. The baby is like 3 weeks old. The couple is about a decade our junior. I serve and try to keep the conversation engaging when I tell you we had zero in common. They leave, and as I use the toilet off of the dining room, it hits me. The pungent reek of urine. This dude had water sprinkled in our bathroom and urine, soaking my favorite basket I'd had in there for decor. I ran him into the base PX parking lot 10 years later. Aren't you the guy who peed all over my bathroom after I served you dinner and answered all of your girlfriend's baby questions? His response, my bad. Me and her were having a rough patch and I was so mad. Bizarre. It took about a week of washing walls to get rid of the smell. Next story. I used to live with my ex a few years ago, and we had my cat with us because I moved in with him, so my baby boy came with. His friends came over and everyone started drinking, so naturally everyone is messing around. So my cat is napping at people's feet, which I told everyone he's prone to doing, and this one friend, call him P, literally kicked my cat into the coffee table and shrugged it off when everyone told him he was being a jerk and to apologize and drive us to the vet in the morning if he was still limping around. He ended up calling an Uber to go home early, and another friend drove me to the vet with him. He had 3 fractured ribs and a broken hip. He did recover though, thank God. Next story. My wife's friend invited us and another couple over to her house for the weekend. We were hanging out in the evening when the boyfriend of the other couple disappeared for a while. His girlfriend went to see where he'd gone, and then she returned to tell our host that he'd had a wank on the bed in the room they were staying in. Like literally, onto the bed. It's weird to begin with to duck out of an evening with friends to whack off, but if you absolutely have to, at least finish into tissue or an effing sock or something. Just intentionally unloading all over someone else's bedsheets is absolutely insane. Next story. My husband and I bought a house, and the week we moved in, 2 of our friends were invited to stay because they lived out of town. After the weekend, we thought they'd leave, but they didn't. They kept saying one more day. They treated our house like it was a frat house, literally throwing a dish into the sink and almost breaking my husband's guitar. The worst part is we just moved in and had to work during the week while they stayed at our house. After work, we'd get home and they would be mad that my husband didn't want to get wasted with them. They also would watch TV at night on high volume, and we kept having to tell them to keep it down because we have work. We cooked them dinner every day, did their laundry. They repaid us by telling all of our other friends we were not good hosts and relationships with them would have not been the same since. I still get mad thinking about it years later. Oh my goodness. Man, reading these makes me feel like you never want to have anyone in your house ever. People seem to be like vampires, okay? You got to keep them out, but once you invite them in, they terrorize you. They never leave. It's horrible. It's disgusting. It's very gross. But guys, that concludes our stories of the most disrespectful people to enter your home. It's all very gross and unsettling. But if you have any stories that you would like to share of people entering your home and being rude and horrible, feel free to drop those down below in the comments. Or perhaps you are the rude and horrible person. In that case, self-report, why don't you? Put that down in the stories as well, because we do like reading them. And as always, thanks for hanging out with me, and we will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.